You know, like something is going on here that I don't understand. You know, I feel like the trail it's gone cold. I mean, I know it's gone cold, but I'm starting to lose faith. You know?
You should talk to someone.
Like who? What? Like a therapist?
Welcome everyone to another episode of Inside Hollywood with Vinny. And this evening I'm joined by a multi-award-winning filmmaker, director, writer. He's fabulous. Joining us from beautiful Los Angeles. It is my pleasure to introduce Matthew Michael Ross. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Vince. I appreciate it. Good to be here.
It's great. I'm and by the way, I'm wearing my Indie Rights hat.
Indie Rights, my distributor.
Which is, I know you got a personal connection with, and who I'm a big fan of, and who were very nice enough to send me this wonderful, beautiful hat. I highly recommend them as far as if you're a filmmaker that's trying to seek distribution, seek them out. Wonderful team, Michael Madison, Linda Nelson over there, the great people over at Indie Rights. Now, getting back to you, Matthew. Now, you know, we most recently Invisible, which is a smash hit, and you got a lot of experience behind you. We had some, we're chewing the fat a bit here, and you have an impressive resume.
Thank you.
So I'm very excited to present you to my audience, and let's get into it. So where you're from, how'd you get started, and tell us all about yourself.
Well, I'm originally from New York, back at you, and moved out here to pursue acting and filmmaking. I had done some stuff on television for a little bit, and I was apprenticing on some movies. I had gone to school and studied film and also acting. And then I broke in with a couple of short films and a feature film. And then over the years, just, a couple of award-winning short films. And then came Invisible. And we're very excited. It won 7 awards. And we've been distributed by Indie Rights. We've been on Amazon Prime for the last couple of months, doing really, really well. We're on Tubi. And I'm just excited. The film, it really talks a lot about invisible pain, including like real pain, like a pain disorder called CRPS, complex regional pain syndrome, which one of the characters suffers from in the story. So the reason it's called Invisible is because of the concept of the main character going through searching for his friend that he lost to drugs and alcohol, goes searching for him. So he's suffering with his own internal pain. And the movie just became about invisible pain and suffering. And so that's how we called it Invisible. It wasn't originally titled that. Yeah.
Excellent. And what motivated you to kind of the concept behind it?
It's kind of tragic. The story is, based on real events and real people in my life. I unfortunately lost a friend to drugs and alcohol. Wasn't my first friend. But this one really, really hit me hard. And during COVID, I went looking for him because, he had disappeared. And I found out that, he'd become homeless. He was addicted to meth and nowhere to be found. And I was really struggling with this pain of my own, thinking that there was something I could have done to have saved him. And when I went looking for him, all his friends, were just, they don't want to have anything to do with him. And it was really hard. And so I wrote Invisible as kind of catharsis for the pain that I was going through. And I showed it to some people and they were like, wow, this is an amazing script. And then I showed it to Rob Sweeney, our director of photography, who I had worked with on a short film, an award-winning short film that we did called A Package from Me. Rob is an amazing cinematographer. Everybody knows him. 6 Feet Under. He did Entourage for 5 seasons. He did all 8 seasons of Blackish, the TV show. He's just an amazing cinematographer and amazing person. He read the script and he said, Matt, I'd like to shoot the film. And I was like, Rob, I'd like you to shoot it too, but I can't afford you. And he said, look, let's figure out how we're going to make this film. And that's how it all started.
That's great. You mentioned 6 Feet Under. A dear friend of mine who's out there in LA, Ed O'Rourke. Shout out to Ed O'Rourke, my buddy.
Shout out to Ed.
Yeah, he's great. And tremendous DP. I mean, Sweeney. Wow. So that's a hell of that's a great ally to have in the game.
The pedigree really helps, you know, especially when you're looking to rent cameras, when you're looking for crew. You know, a lot of the crew that we had was from Blackish. So they were kind of a well-oiled team. And, you know, I was able to really concentrate on, you know, directing the actors and working with them. And by the way, you know, I really did work those actors. I'm not one of these directors that sits on the sideline and says, "What do you got for me?" I'm really hands on, and I'm not easy. So I know what I want, and I push and I push and I push, and the actors they respect that eventually. It's a bit of a challenge when we're on set, but I really do direct them quite a bit, and the performances that we have in Invisible are, in my opinion, Academy Award performances.
Well, there's something to be said about, you know, being a director who's really hands on, because I think when you're like that, when you're really sort of detail oriented and you really are pushing, that actually benefits the whole crew and cast because it brings out the best in them, I think.
Oh, absolutely. I've been on a lot of sets where there's a, you know, I don't want to say, you know, bad mouthing, but like there's an idea that the director doesn't know what he wants or she wants, and that kind of can undermine the set when everybody is following the director's vision and the director really knows what he or she wants. It kind of glues everybody together, you know, and I don't have any other way of doing it. I know exactly what I'm looking for when I get into it. Also, I'm an editor, so I used to work for Sony Pictures. I edited for Warner Brothers. I edited Paranormal Activity, one of the movies, not the movie, but I worked on some of their projects. And I, you know, I'm a pretty top notch editor. So when I go in to make a film, I know what I'm looking for in the editing room. As you see, I have a full editing studio at my place, and so I
Got
go in the
the
dark.
Avid behind you.
This is my
Nice.
studio, and I'm actually using DaVinci Resolve now.
Mm.
I moved from Avid to Final Cut to Premiere and now DaVinci because the projects that I worked on for other clients, we were always going to color correct, and there would always be like a lot of clunkiness going from, you know, from whatever to DaVinci and then back again. So I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna take a risk and I'm gonna cut this film on DaVinci, and I'm not going back.
That's great. Yeah, I hear a lot of great things about it actually,
Yeah.
and it benefits you greatly. And I could myself, I think I have to start investing probably in that because I'd rather edit my own stuff. I think, you know, I've had, yeah, it's no offense to the editors or anything, but when you're so hands on like yourself and you really know what you want, it's kind of you kind of want the editing. That's a huge part of it is the editing.
You know, I became an editor because my first experience with an editor was not the best. I had, you know, editors have to be really understanding of a director's passion and that the time and commitment that went into making something. So if you're going to put something on the editing room floor, which, you know, doesn't exist anymore, but the you know, proverbial editing floor, which is, you know, it doesn't make it onto the cut, the idea that, you know, you have to justify that, and if the director wants to see, you know, maybe you could put that back in, you have to be a little flexible. Remember, you're trying to, you know, it's the editor trying to make the director's dream, not to crush his you know, passion by saying, oh, that's not going to work, that's not going to work, that's not going to work. So that was my first experience, and so I just ended up editing my own stuff, and then I became an editor for Sony Pictures and other big companies.
Well, it's good to have that experience. I mean, it's huge. So and now, thankfully, with technology, it's made it possible where it's a lot easier to kind of get all this stuff done all yourself if you have the time and the energy, you know.
And DaVinci is actually free. You don't even have to pay for it. I mean, I paid for it because I wanted a couple of more bells and whistles, but the free version is absolutely just packed with everything. I know this is starting to sound like a commercial for DaVinci Resolve, and if they do want to reach out to me and give me a stipend for this, no, I'm kidding. But yeah, it's even the free version is pretty spectacular.
Fantastic. Okay. And so tell us now, we're on the East Coast, but tell us how the climate is out there in the West Coast. We hear a lot of things, we read a lot of things, you know, the big talk is Netflix. But tell me what what's the climate like right now out there?
Well, you know, unfortunately, the independent filmmaker is really not really thought about in the world of film and television. They really are, you know, we're like we're not even in the game to them. That's unfortunate for them because there's a lot of backlash to that, which is they're not making great content anymore. They're not making films that people are passionate about. And I'm not just talking from my perspective. At the screenings of my film, I had a lot of young people come up to me, and I'm talking about like 17, 19, 21, everybody like under 25, and they were saying to me, why aren't there films like this? Why aren't there films like Invisible in the movie theaters? Why are we watching sequels and prequels and just rehashing of the same movie ideas over and over again? And I just said, I think it's just they are so afraid to lose money. Everything is risk assessment, and they don't want anything new because they don't have any. It doesn't have value to them as some intellectual property that they already own or they purchased. And I think it's just the wrong attitude. The filmmakers of the 1970s and the 80s and the 90s, they were great, and a lot of independent spirit went on to be great filmmakers. If you keep rehashing those filmmakers, it's not the same. And as we've seen, blockbuster filmmakers like Francis Ford Coppola can't even get his films distributed, and Scorsese can't even get his film made, and big stars that are associated with films are not getting their films funded. And so this Netflix buying up another major entity, I mean, it's all going the wrong way. Netflix made its bones on the backs of independent filmmakers, right? So did Hulu. It was all about whatever films they could grab, and now they're just like they don't even let independent films in anymore. It's really sad.
Well, and that's the thing. And that's why, and we talked about this before too. I mean, we really got to see the fortification and growth of our independent filmmakers out there. And a lot of these, you talk about the 70s, 80s, and 90s. I mean, those great directors, filmmakers that emerged were pretty much renegades too.
Absolutely. And sometimes they just gave people some money that had an idea. I mean, there were the guys that made, movies in the 70s and in the 60s. Movies
Plus,
like that.
Scorsese and Coppola were outsiders. Also, I mean, they weren't, it wasn't a nepotism thing. I mean, they were pretty much independent. I mean, they just got really, I don't want to say they got lucky. They worked really hard, but
I mean,
they
even
were
Lucas,
outsiders.
even Lucas with Star Wars, they didn't know what to do with that film. They had no idea. So it's not, this is, it shouldn't be just a money industry. There's enough money out there, for just blockbuster after blockbuster movie, another movie that's just rehashing some old idea, or a horror film that's been done over and over again. I mean, great new ideas are what's going to keep things alive, and new, younger and diversified voices. Just great films. Look at all the films that win Academy Awards. They're not blockbusters. They're movies about people going back 20, 30 years, and even till today. Honora, I mean, film in Brooklyn, about a girl who's like crazy girl. I know she was considered a sex worker, but I think she was in maybe that genre. She was worked in a strip club, but she was also doing stuff. But I mean, that kind of story would not be told by a studio, by a big studio. Neither would the Brutalist. These are independent films. We need to support them more. The guy that made Tangerine, right, was the same guy. I mean, you'd never have a film like that made by a studio.
I think you would agree. In my opinion, movies, they have to make you feel something. They have to make you really get deep. It should change you in some way. I think great movies should change you in some way.
Yeah, when I think back on the films that just blew my mind, the Fisher King movies like that, Lorenzo's Oil, movies that and most people don't even know these films. Films that just make your heart, you feel something for these people. I have been watching. I was on the Screen Actors Guild nominating committee last year, so I got to see all of those movies, and a lot of them didn't really get a break because they weren't big enough.
Well, and it sounds like you kind of broke. I don't want to say you broke the glass ceiling, but you definitely, are a lot farther than most independent filmmakers, which is beautiful because you're one of us. And how did you do that? How did you kind of get through some of the, some of that heavy top-sided sort of bureaucracy?
Well, first of all, this idea that, like what the Duplass brothers are saying, or I forgot the one guy saying like, oh, just go make films with your friends on the weekends. It's like that's not what it's about. Filmmaking takes skill. It's a skill set, and if you're going to do it as a hobby, or you're going to learn, as a hobby, that's great. But the idea that, like, you and your friends are going to go out and shoot something on the weekends, and you're going to have a feature film that is going to be worthy of distribution, that's hard. I think people forget that, the screenplay is the most important thing. It's got to move people, and I think people have thrown that idea away. They don't even shoot with screenplays. They're just like, oh yeah, we'll figure it out when we get on set, and we'll improv it. And I've seen improv movies done by masters, and they're not that good. You have to remember that this is an art form. You don't just put your first brush on a canvas and, oh, I'm going to be famous because I put something on canvas. It takes years and years of trying and making short films and understanding what audiences like, and honing your skills in cinematography, understanding what that's all about. Just don't hire somebody with a camera. Hire somebody that knows what they're doing. Don't just hire somebody with a boom pole and a recorder. Hire a sound man who knows, or else you're going to end up in a world of pain trying to fix everything. And I know this because as an editor, I keep getting hired over and over again to fix other people's mistakes. And it's better if you know what you're doing. And also, don't forget that you can learn from the past. There's already amazing films out there. Study those. That's what film school is mostly about, is studying the masters. Just like Jackson Pollock studied the masters before he decided to break into his own way of doing things. And Picasso could paint beautiful paintings before he launched into more abstract work. You can't break the rules until you understand the rules. And I think people, are very they're very challenged by that idea. Oh, why are there rules? I don't want to follow rules. It's not really rules. It's just that things work and there's a reason for them. It's not, filmmaking is not some magic that just, you really have to know what you're doing. And it starts with writing. If you don't understand the human condition, you shouldn't be writing about the human condition. It's not just a punchline. It's not a way of going like, oh, let's scare people. Well, when you really want to scare people, you got to know what people are feeling in order to scare them. That's why I keep watching these scary movies and I'm not scared at all. Which brings me to what I'm doing now.
Great segue.
I am Indie Rights is absolutely 100% behind Invisible. When we went to the American film market, I noticed like we were the first page in their book. I saw that we were prominently positioned on their posters. They really love Invisible, and we're so happy to be working with them. They want another film from me. So when you now have a place to get your film distributed, now you're in a different world. Now that glass ceiling is kind of cracking because you now have the ability to say to someone who might be investing in your film or the people working on your film, because that's also an investment, time and creative energy, that there's a place for this film. So I am every day writing a new horror film. I have a whole bunch of films that are ready to go, but the film that I want to do for this next Indie Rights film has to be of a certain budget, and it can't be too expensive, because if it's too expensive, then then you run into other problems. How do you make your money back, etc.? So we're trying to stay within a certain budget, and so I'm writing this new screenplay, which I'm very excited about. I've been working diligently on that, so we want to be shooting that hopefully before the summer of 2026.
So what's going on? So you're working on the horror thing, which is wonderful. And again, I'm always a big lover of horror. Going back to Nightmare on Elm Street. If I remember going to the theater as maybe a 10-year-old, I don't know what I was doing there, 10 years old watching that, but
Nightmare.
But that hooked me back. Yeah, Texas Chainsaw. I loved all the classics. But anyway, what's your goals in the future? What are we looking at? Where do you want to be 3 to 5 years from now?
You know, my goals change because the industry is changing. And, you know, the idea of making studio films, I don't know. It's not as appealing as it used to be because, but studio films now they're getting so uh, micromanaged and so farmed out to just so many people that it's not really it's not the vision of a filmmaker anymore. It's not a vision of a director anymore. It's this conglomerate of so many artists and so many different people, and everybody's just watching the money and the, you know. I'll give an example. This is years ago, but like Blade Runner came out, and before it came out, Ridley Scott had a cut of the film, and the studio thought, you know what, nobody's going to get the beginning of the movie. They're not going to understand what this guy's deal is. So they recorded Harrison Ford doing a voiceover throughout the beginning of the movie, and it was terrible. It was like some, you know, some old cop movie, like, you know, it was back in the day. It was just really bad. She walked into my life, and then, you know, I don't know. But so when Ridley Scott decided he wanted to do a director's cut, he took that voiceover out. It was a much better film. And most people that really love that film love the director's cut. It's not, there's no more director's cuts anymore. The filmmakers they're not even really part of the big picture anymore. And so for me, working with indie rights, working with other distributors that are really independent spirits, I'd rather just keep making independent films and let me be part of independent films becoming bigger again and people wanting them. And then maybe I'll have a little bit more stake in the game. But the idea of working for the studios and you know, working with like A-list actors, it's just not my dream anymore. It comes with too much influence outside, you know, and that's something that's really changed for me, because that was my dream for the longest time, to work with like A-listers and make these, you know, Hollywood movies. But I'm watching what Hollywood's making, and I'm not thrilled.
Well, you know, it's a good thing too, because and I definitely understand, because as you start to kind of level up and you start to get into different circles and you see different things and you reach different places, sort of like looking behind the curtain, you know, Wizard of Oz, and you
Yeah,
realize, you know, the wizard isn't so special after all. So,
yeah,
but that's a great thing. I think it's a beautiful thing, because your message is probably shared by like so many thousands of other filmmakers out there. And I think that now's the time where, well, it's kind of been coming in that way. You know, you've just basically said everything that everybody I always talk to always speaks about it, how they're just tired of like regurgitated, recycled nonsense by these big
yeah,
studios. They're just safe bets. So everybody's kind of seeing through that. And it's just turning most people away. That's why there's so many children movies or young adult movies
right.
they're geared toward, because that's sort of like, you're not going to say no to your kid because they want to go see whatever, you know, that the studio is trying to crank out with special effects. But that's not really filmmaking either. So, with that being said, you know, I wish you and everyone like you, and I can't put myself in your category, but you know, as far as being an independent filmmaker myself, I definitely want to do it for the love of it, and you know, of course, the business of it is great, but we don't want to sell our souls for something that's just like half cocked.
Yeah, and I one of the other things is I want to help people. I want to help other filmmakers, and I want other filmmakers to be able to have a place where they can go and not be lied to. You know, there's just so much BS out there. A lot of these film festivals are just, they're money grabs. You know, they just keep popping up. It used to be like 10 film festivals. Now there's like 1,000 film festivals, you know, and what are you getting out of them? You know, I mean, and this idea, you know, oh, you got to shoot bigger because you're going to get on Netflix. I was talking to my DP. I said, what do we shoot Invisible on? He's like, 6K, and then some of it on 8K. I delivered all of it on 2K. There's you know, it's like we watched it in movie theaters, the biggest movie theaters in LA, on 2K. Like, why are we shooting in 4K? Why are we shooting in 6K? Why are we shooting? It's like filmmakers have to understand, especially, you know, newbies that are coming up. They have to understand, what is your ultimate goal here. And if you just think like, oh, I'll get into a film festival, one of the big film festivals, it's so hard. They're getting harder and harder every year. It's like more and more filmmakers are making these, films in their, with their friends on the weekends. And so it's like, instead of being up against 200 films, you're up against 2,000 films or even 20,000 films. It gets crazy. So I'd like to somehow help people, whether it's just give them advice, talk about it, be really candid about what's going on. I can't wait for us to figure out how we're doing financially in the first couple of quarters of 2026, because that money that I'm getting back from my film, from indie rights, is going into my next film. We're going to keep churning them out. We're going to make really good films, powerful films with the budgets that we can afford. And I want people to understand that, it doesn't have to be done the way other people do them with all of this, it's got to be, 6K, 8K. It's got to be union only, and you got to get a celebrity in your film. Ask somebody who's really been out there how their film did with their celebrity that they did for $150,000 or 200,000 or $500,000. How did your celebrity do when it came to getting your money back? So maybe work with new people, maybe work with new actors, maybe work with people that have been around for a while but never got to that celebrity status but are amazing. Work with people that have done great work, and maybe you'll give them their chance. I'm giving people their chance in my film. Like I said, every performance was Academy Award, and you probably never heard of a lot of the people that are in my films.
That's the beauty of it too, because you're able to you don't have to be pressured by studio boss or the commercialization of everything. You have the power to do what you think is best, and you keep it under your own umbrella. I love it. I love it, Matthew, and I think that we need more people like you. I think it's starting to the mushroom effect is already starting to happen, especially when you're reading about all these major streamers that are just basically, they're throwing around hundreds of billions like it's candy. It's getting too, for lack of a better word, it's getting a little too grotesque.
It is,
But
yeah.
let's tell everybody where we can find you.
Well, my YouTube channel is AON Films, AON Films, and that's where I'm putting up all the interviews that I'm doing. I'm putting up the interviews with my stars, interviews with my team, interviews even with indie rights, and also I have a wonderful proof of concept series that I have called S.K.C, which is on my YouTube channel also. It has over 350,000 views, which is amazing for a guy that didn't put any money into any promotion of the studio, of the production. And I will be doing that as a feature film, maybe in 2027 or 2028, because it's a great show. So that's that. And then I'm on Instagram, Matthew_Ross_AON. And then, I'm all over, but
Of course, as always, friends, make sure that you look in the description box, because that's where we'll have links for you to make it nice and easy. And I highly encourage all of you, check out all of Matthew's work. When you watch his movies, please make sure you're leaving a review.
And Tubi, it's free now on Tubi. There's a lot of commercials, but it's only $3.99 on Amazon Prime, and it looks amazing on both. So and I think everyone that's watched it has said they were glad they watched it.
There you go. For less than the price of a cheesesteak, you can go ahead and support a fabulous filmmaker right here.
Thank you so much.
And listen, guys, I know it's a weird thing, Matthew. I don't know if but it's like sometimes some people, even myself, sometimes like, do I really want to spend for this, for this app, $5.99? But then I just bought like a $10 sandwich. So.
Exactly. Well, the film definitely, again, Tubi, you can watch it for free, but I've never had one person want their money back. And I've even offered all the people that I know. I'm like, hey, if you don't like it, I'll sell you $3.99. And nobody's asked for their money back yet. And check out the reviews, where we have a ridiculous amount of great reviews on Amazon, and they're starting to come onto the other platforms like IMDb, and we're waiting for Rotten Tomatoes to come on board as well. So
fantastic. Well, again, you're a beacon of hope
Thank you.
in these very turbulent filmmaking days. So it's really just a pleasure to hear from your perspective. And again, everybody, make sure you're following Matthew. Make sure you're following me. Stay tuned for more, and we'd love to have you back and keep us
Would
updated.
love
And
it.
I wish you all the best in the new year.
Thank you, Vince. Happy New Year to you too, and everybody out there as well.
Thank you. Again, you've been watching Filmmaker, Matthew Michael Ross. I'm Vinny. We'll see you next time.